This is my grandmother's watch. Billionaire CEO Michael Harrison's heart stopped as he stared down at his wrist. The 10-year-old girl, Emma, pointed at his watch with wide, innocent eyes. It looks exactly like Grandma's watch, even this little scratch right here. Michael's hands began to tremble. For 45 years, he'd worn this watch every single day without fail. Could it be? Could Emma's grandmother be? But let me take you back to where this incredible story began. Just a few hours earlier, Michael Harrison stepped out of his black Mercedes in downtown Millbrook, the small Ohio town he'd left 40 years ago. Nothing looked familiar anymore. The old Victorian houses were gone, replaced by strip malls and apartment complexes. "How much has this place changed?" he muttered, looking around desperately. He was supposed to meet his high school classmates at their 40-year reunion, but his GPS had stopped working. The new roads confused the system completely. The reunion was at some restaurant near the old Millbrook High School, but he couldn't even find where the school used to be. Truth was, Michael had almost decided not to come at all. The memories from 45 years ago still hurt too much. Memories of Sarah and that terrible night when everything fell apart. As he stood there, lost and confused, he heard light footsteps approaching. A 10-year-old girl with bright eyes and a school backpack was walking toward him. "Sir, are you okay? You look lost," Emma said with genuine concern. "Well, sweetheart, I am lost. I'm trying to find the Golden Years restaurant for my high school reunion." Emma's face lit up. "Oh, I know that place. It's near my house. I can show you the way." As they walked together, Emma chattered cheerfully. "Are you from around here, originally?" "I used to live here when I was young, then moved to Chicago," Michael explained. "Wow, so you're visiting your hometown after all these years. That's so exciting." Michael's heart warmed to this bright little girl. "Who do you live with, Emma?" "My grandma, my mom, and me. My dad went to heaven 3 years ago," she said matter-of-factly, without a trace of sadness. But Michael's heart ached at her words. "But I'm not lonely, because I have Grandma and Mom. My grandma is the sweetest person in the world." "That sounds like a loving family," Michael said, genuinely envious. At 65, despite all his success, he'd never experienced that kind of family warmth. His Chicago mansion was always empty. "Do you live alone, sir?" "Yes, I do." When they reached the Golden Years restaurant, Emma beamed proudly. "Here we are!" Michael was truly grateful. Without Emma, he never would have made it to the reunion. "Thank you so much, Emma. Can I give you some money for helping?" Emma waved her hands. "Oh, no, that's okay. Grandma always says we should help people who need it." What a sweet child, Michael thought. So rare to find such pure kindness these days. As Emma started to leave, she suddenly stopped. "Oh, what time is it? I need to get to the pharmacy for Grandma's medicine before it closes." Michael automatically looked down at his wristwatch, the same watch he'd worn every single day for 45 years. "It's 4 o'clock," he said. But then Emma's eyes went wide. She stared at Michael's watch with complete shock. "Oh my goodness, that looks exactly like my grandma's watch." Michael's heart nearly stopped beating. "What did you say?" Michael's voice was barely a whisper. "It's identical to the watch my grandma always wears. Same shape, same color, even that tiny scratch on the side." Emma leaned in closer to examine the watch, completely fascinated by the coincidence. But Michael's mind was racing. Could it be? Could Emma's grandmother be Sarah? The same Sarah he bought matching watches with 45 years ago when they promised to love each other forever? "Your grandmother? What's her name?" Michael asked, his voice shaking. Sarah Mitchell. She's the best grandma ever." The world seemed to stop spinning. Sarah Mitchell. His Sarah had been Sarah Williams back in high school. She must have gotten married, taken her husband's name. Michael's mind flooded with memories of 1978. "Class, I'd like you to meet Sarah Williams. She's joining our junior class today." 16-year-old Michael Harrison looked up from his desk and felt his heart skip a beat. The shy but confident girl walking into Mrs. Peterson's classroom was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. "Hi, I'm Michael," he said during break. "If you need help with anything, just ask." "Thanks, I'm Sarah. Nice to meet you." That's how their love story began. Michael came from a working-class family. His dad worked construction. His mom cleaned houses. Sarah's family wasn't wealthy either. Her father worked at the local factory. But they were young and in love, and that's all that mattered. "What do you want to be when you grow up?" Sarah asked one day as they sat by Miller's Creek. "Maybe a businessman. I want to make enough money so you never have to worry about anything." "I don't need money, Michael. I just need you." By their senior year, 1978, Michael had saved up money from his paper route and weekend jobs to buy Sarah something special: 2 matching silver watches. Not expensive by today's standards, but it took him months to afford them. "Sarah, I want you to have this," he said, presenting the small jewelry box. Inside were 2 identical silver watches. "Michael, this is too much. How did you afford this?" "I want our love to be like these watches, lasting forever. Will you promise me something?" "What?" "Promise that you'll think of me every time you look at this watch, and I'll think of you every time I look at mine." "I promise, until the day I die." They exchanged watches in a simple ceremony by their favorite spot along Miller's Creek. "I love you, Sarah Williams. Someday I'm going to marry you." "I love you too, Michael Harrison." But Michael's memories weren't all happy. December 1979 had shattered everything. Sarah had called him that cold December evening, her voice excited but nervous. "Michael, can we meet tomorrow? I have something really important to tell you." "Can't you tell me now?" "No, it has to be in person. Meet me at our usual spot by the creek." Michael had no idea that would be the last conversation he'd ever have with Sarah. At 4 a.m. that night, black cars pulled up to the Harrison house. His father's construction business had gone bankrupt, and dangerous men had come to collect debts. "Pack everything. We have to leave now," his father said urgently. "If we don't disappear tonight, we're all in danger." "But, Dad, I have to say goodbye to Sarah. She's waiting for me tomorrow." "There's no time, son. We leave now or we might not leave at all." Michael was forced into the car, clutching his watch and crying. As they drove toward Chicago in the darkness, he pressed his face against the window, watching Millbrook disappear. "I'll come back for you, Sarah. I promise." Meanwhile, Sarah waited at Miller's Creek until sunset. When Michael never showed up, she went to his house only to find it empty. The neighbors said the family had packed up and left in the middle of the night. They seemed to be in some kind of trouble. Mrs. Patterson from next door explained. "Left real sudden-like." Sarah was heartbroken and confused. What had Michael wanted to tell her? She had been going to share the most important news of her life. She was pregnant with his child. In Chicago, Michael threw himself into his studies and work. He sent letters to Sarah's old address, but they all came back marked moved, no forwarding address. Sarah's family had also left Millbrook, unable to face the shame of their unmarried daughter's pregnancy. When her parents found out about her pregnancy, they wanted to avoid society's judgment. "Sarah, shouldn't you get rid of that child?" her mother asked carefully, but Sarah shook her head. "No, this child was created from Michael's and my love." Sarah talked to the baby in her womb every day. "Baby, Daddy will definitely come find us. Just wait a little longer." Next summer, Sarah gave birth to her daughter alone. In the maternity ward while enduring labor pains, she kept calling for Michael. "Michael, where are you? Our daughter is born." But there was no one there to answer her. Only the nurse was there to comfort Sarah. "What are you going to name her?" the nurse asked, and Sarah answered without hesitation, "Michelle." Michael spent every vacation searching for Sarah. He hired private investigators, 3 different agencies over the years. All came up empty. "I'm sorry, Mr. Harrison. It's like she vanished completely after 1980. But Michael never gave up hope. He built a successful construction company, then expanded into real estate and development. By 2024, he was worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Yet, every success felt hollow without Sarah. He never married. "Sir, there's a lovely woman I'd like you to meet," his assistants would suggest. "Thank you, but my heart belongs to someone else. Where is she?" "I don't know, but someday, I'll find her." Every day for 45 years, Michael wore that watch. Even when he could afford the finest Swiss timepieces, he never took off the simple silver watch Sarah had given him. Meanwhile, Sarah had raised their daughter, Michelle, as a single mother. She told Michelle beautiful stories about her father. "Your daddy is a good man, honey. He didn't leave because he wanted to. Something must have happened." Sarah worked double shifts at the local diner, then later as a nurse's aide to support Michelle. It was hard, but she never complained. And every morning she put on that silver watch, thinking of Michael. "Today I'll remember you again," she'd whisper, touching the watch face. Now back in the present, Michael stood outside the Golden Years restaurant, his mind reeling from Emma's words about her grandmother's identical watch. Inside, his former classmates were already gathering, gray-haired and wrinkled, but laughing and reminiscing. "Michael, you actually came? We heard you became some big-shot CEO in Chicago." "Hey, everyone," Michael said distractedly, still thinking about Emma's grandmother. "So, Mike, you ever get married?" "No, never found the right person." "What do you mean? A successful guy like you?" Michael gave vague answers, his eyes constantly drifting toward the door. Would Sarah come after all these years? Would she be here? "Remember when you and Sarah Williams were inseparable?" someone mentioned. "Whatever happened to her?" Michael's heart leapt. "Does anyone know where Sarah is now? Does anyone have her contact information?" "Sorry, man, lost touch with her after graduation. Her family moved away." The reunion continued, but Michael couldn't concentrate. Emma's words kept echoing in his mind. "It looks exactly like my grandmother's watch." After making polite conversation for an hour, Michael excused himself. He had to find Emma again. He had to meet her grandmother. As Michael walked back to his car around 7 p.m., he heard a familiar voice ahead. "Grandma, slow down. Be careful on these steps." It was Emma helping an elderly woman down the steps of Murphy's Pharmacy. Michael's heart stopped as he saw the woman's silhouette. That posture, those shoulders, that graceful way of walking. After 45 years, he knew it was Sarah. "Sarah," he whispered. The woman turned around. Despite the gray hair and wrinkles, those eyes were unmistakable. The same kind, beautiful eyes he'd fallen in love with in 1974. "Michael?" Sarah's voice was barely audible. "Is it really you?" Emma looked back and forth between the two adults, confused by the sudden tension. "Grandma, do you know this man?" Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "Yes, sweetheart. This is the man Grandma loved most in the whole world." Michael couldn't hold back his tears. "I found you. After 45 years, I finally found you." "You're still wearing the watch?" Sarah noticed, looking at his wrist. "Every day for 45 years? And you?" Sarah held up her own wrist, showing the identical silver watch. "Every day. I never stopped thinking about you." Emma's eyes grew wide. "Wow, they really are exactly the same. This is like a fairy tale." Sarah suggested they go somewhere quiet to talk. At Corner Cafe, with Emma excitedly sipping hot chocolate, the two seniors sat across from each other, barely able to believe this moment was real. "Sarah, what were you going to tell me that day? That important news?" Sarah glanced at Emma, then back at Michael. "Maybe we should talk about that later. When, Grandma, was this man your boyfriend?" Emma asked innocently. Yes, sweetheart. A long time ago. So he's like your first love. That's so romantic. After Emma went to use the restroom, Sarah took a deep breath. Michael, what I was going to tell you that December night, I was pregnant. We have a daughter. The coffee cup slipped from Michael's hands. The world tilted. A daughter? Her name is Michelle. She's 44 now. And Emma, Sarah's voice was gentle. Emma is your granddaughter. Michael's knees gave out. He slumped in his chair, overwhelmed. I have a daughter. For 44 years, I've had a daughter and I didn't know. You couldn't have known. I tried to find you, but your family had disappeared. Her first steps, her first words, her graduation, her wedding. I missed everything. Michael wept openly, mourning all the lost years. When they arrived at Sarah's modest two-story home, Emma ran inside, calling, Mom, you'll never believe what happened today. Michelle came out, a 44-year-old woman with Sarah's gentle features but Michael's determined jawline. When she saw her mother with a strange man, her expression grew cautious. Mom? Michelle, Sarah said carefully, this is Michael Harrison. This is your father. The words hung in the air. Michelle stared at Michael, then at her mother, processing this life-changing revelation. My father? I'm sorry, Michael said, his voice breaking. I'm so sorry I wasn't there. Where were you for 44 years? Michelle's voice carried decades of questions. Michael explained about the midnight escape, the debts, the desperate search. Gradually, Michelle's anger softened into curiosity, then cautious acceptance. Mom never said a bad word about you, Michelle admitted. She always said something must have happened. Your mother raised you perfectly. I can see what a wonderful person you became. Emma, delighted by the family drama, announced, So, you're my real grandpa. This is the best day ever. Isn't this amazing? It's just like in the fairy tales. The prince comes back for the princess. Emma, honey, Michelle finally managed, why don't you go to your room and let the adults talk? But Mom, this is the best part. This is where they live happily ever after. Sarah stood up slowly, her legs shaky. It's all right, Michelle. Emma can stay. She's the one who brought us together after all. Michael stepped further into the room, his eyes taking in every detail of the life Sarah had built without him. Family photos on the mantle, Emma's school artwork on the refrigerator, the cozy warmth of a home filled with love. Sarah, he began, his voice thick with emotion, I need you to know. I tried to come back. I wrote letters, but they were returned. When I came home, your family had moved. I hired private investigators. I searched for years. I know, Sarah said quietly. I waited. I kept hoping. You never married? Michael asked. How could I? My heart was spoken for. She touched her watch chain. I wound this every morning and thought of you. Michelle stood up abruptly. This is unbelievable. You mean to tell me that my father, the father who was never there for my first day of school, or my graduation, or my wedding, or when my husband died, you've been alive this whole time? The pain in Michelle's voice cut through the room like a blade. Michelle, Michael said, turning to face his daughter for the first time, I can't undo the past, but I need you to know that not a day went by that I didn't wonder about you and your mother. I built a successful business, but it meant nothing because my family wasn't there to share it with. A successful business, Michelle's voice was bitter. We struggled. Dad, we scraped by. Mom worked 2 jobs to put me through school. Where was your successful business when we needed it? Emma, sensing the tension, moved to her grandmother's side. Grandma, are you okay? Sarah knelt down to Emma's level. I'm okay, sweetheart. Sometimes grown-ups have complicated feelings, but you did something wonderful today." Over the next few hours, the story slowly unfolded. Michelle had listened to everything in silence, processing 44 years of wondering about her father. Finally, she spoke. "I used to make up stories about you," she said to Michael. "When I was little, I pretended you were a soldier on a secret mission or an explorer in a faraway land." "Mom never told me your name, but she never spoke badly of you either." "Your mother is a remarkable woman," Michael said. "She raised an incredible daughter." "I had help," Michelle said, glancing at Sarah. "Mom was both parents to me." Emma, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly piped up. "So now we're a real family, like a complete family?" The three adults looked at each other, the weight of the question hanging in the air. "It's not that simple, sweetheart," Michelle said gently. "Why not?" Emma asked with the straightforward logic of a 10-year-old. "Grandma Sarah loves Grandpa Michael. Grandpa Michael loves Grandma Sarah. You're his daughter, and I'm his granddaughter. That sounds like a family to me." Michael didn't rush things. He found a hotel in town and visited every day for weeks, slowly building relationships that should have been formed decades earlier. With Emma, it was easiest. Children have an incredible capacity for acceptance and love. She delighted in having a grandfather, and Michael discovered the joy he'd missed in grandparenthood. He taught her chess, helped with homework, and listened to her practice piano. "Grandpa Michael," Emma said one afternoon as they sat in the garden, "are you going to marry Grandma Sarah?" "Well," Michael chuckled, "don't you think I should ask her first?" "She'll say yes," Emma said confidently. "She still loves you. I can tell." With Sarah, the relationship rekindled slowly, like embers carefully coaxed back to flame. They took long walks, talking about the decades they'd missed, the people they'd become, the dreams they'd held on to, and the ones they'd let go. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we'd never been separated?" Sarah asked one evening as they sat on the porch swing. "Every day for 44 years, Michael admitted. "But maybe we needed this time to become the people we are now. Maybe we're ready for each other in a way we weren't when we were 20. Building a relationship with Michelle proved most challenging. She was protective of her mother and daughter, and understandably wary of this man who claimed to want to be part of their lives after missing most of hers. "What happens when you get bored with playing house?" Michelle asked him directly one day, "when the novelty of having a ready-made family wears off?" "Michelle," Michael said seriously, "I've spent 44 years building a business empire, and I would trade every penny of it for one day with the family I lost. I'm not going anywhere." "Sarah, won't you marry me?" Michael asked carefully one evening. "I've really waited 45 years. I want to be with you now." Tears welled up in Sarah's eyes. I want that too." "Mom, are you really going to get married?" Michelle asked her mother. "Yes, even though it's late, I want to be happy." "Congratulations, Mom. Congratulations to you too, Dad." Michelle congratulated them sincerely. She knew her mother had lived alone and struggled her whole life. "Wow, Grandma's getting married. Does that mean Grandpa will live with us?" Emma was the most excited of all. A year later, Michael and Sarah had a simple wedding ceremony. It wasn't fancy, but it was truly heartwarming. "Emma, bring the rings." Emma took on the special role of ring bearer. "Grandma and Grandpa, are you really getting married?" "Yes, we're getting married after meeting again after 46 years. "Wow, that's so amazing. This is love that waited 46 years. Now we will be together forever." Michael's vows brought tears to everyone in attendance. Waiting makes it even more precious. Let's live the rest of our time happily. Sarah's vows were equally moving. Michelle adjusted her mother's dress while shedding tears. She was so happy to see her mother this joyful. After the wedding ceremony, Michael and Sarah sat quietly together, looking at each other's watches. "This watch was originally yours," Michael said, trying to take off his watch to give it to Sarah. "No, it was ours. It still is ours." Sarah refused to take it. For 46 years, this watch connected us. The sight of the couple looking at the two watches placed side by side was beautiful. Michael decided to leave the headquarters to his vice president and focus on the regional business instead. He wanted to spend more time with his family. "Grandpa, can we live together every day now?" "Then Grandpa will help Emma with her homework too." "Really? I have a lot of difficult math problems." The sight of the four family members sitting together at the dinner table was truly heartwarming. 2 years after the wedding, the family had settled into a rhythm that felt as natural as breathing. Michael had moved his business operations closer to home, prioritizing time with his family over profits for the first time in his career. Emma, now 15 and preparing for high school, had blossomed under the attention of her grandfather. Her piano skills had improved dramatically, and she often performed little concerts in the living room for her captive audience of 3. Michelle had initially resisted Michael's offers of help, but gradually came to appreciate having a father figure for the first time in her life. He walked her down the aisle when she remarried a kind widower named James, and he was there to offer advice when Emma entered her challenging teenage years. But perhaps the most beautiful transformation was in Sarah. The sadness that had lingered behind her eyes for decades had been replaced by a light that seemed to grow brighter each day. She and Michael took up dancing, traveled to places they'd once dreamed of seeing together, and found joy in the simple pleasure of growing old together. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we'd never been separated?" Sarah asked one evening as they sat on the porch swing. "Every day for 44 years, Michael admitted. "But maybe we needed this time to become the people we are now. Maybe we're ready for each other in a way we weren't when we were 20. Emma, overhearing her name, came running over. "What about me?" "We were just saying that you're the best granddaughter in the world," Sarah said, pulling Emma onto her lap despite the girl's protest that she was too big for such things. "And the best matchmaker," Michael added with a wink. Emma giggled. "I want to be a professional matchmaker when I grow up. I'll help people find their true love, just like I hope you and Grandma." "That's a wonderful dream," Sarah said, "though I hope you find your own true love too." Emma looked thoughtful. "Do you think I'll find someone who will love me for 47 years like you and Grandpa?" Michael and Sarah exchanged a look full of the kind of communication that comes from deep, enduring love. "Sweetheart," Michael said, "when you find the right person, 47 years will feel like the blink of an eye. Love isn't about the time you lose, it's about the time you're given." On their 5th wedding anniversary, Michael and Sarah made a decision. They called Emma, now 15 and preparing for high school, into the living room where she found them sitting together, each holding their respective watches. "Emma," Sarah said, "we want to give these to you." Emma's eyes widened. "Your watches, but those are so important to you." "That's exactly why we want you to have them," Michael explained. "These watches represent something important. They represent love that endures, hope that never dies, and the belief that if something is meant to be, it will find a way." Emma took the watches carefully, feeling the weight of their significance. "What am I supposed to do with them?" "Keep them," Sarah said simply. "And someday, when you find your true love, you'll understand their real value. Not as timepieces, but as symbols of a love that waited 47 years to come home." Emma hugged her grandparents tightly. "I love you both so much. Thank you for showing me what real love looks like." That night, as Michael and Sarah prepared for bed, they reflected on the unexpected turns their lives had taken. They were in their 70s now, but they felt like newlyweds. Every morning was a gift. Every day together, a blessing they never took for granted. "You know," Sarah said as she brushed her silver hair, "I used to think those lost years were tragic. Now I think they were necessary. We needed to become who we were meant to be before we could be together." Michael nodded, watching his wife in the mirror. Emma changed everything. One little girl with a kind heart and a big mouth. They laughed together, the sound echoing through the house where 3 generations had learned to live and love together. And somewhere in the house, 2 watches sat side by side on Emma's nightstand, keeping perfect time and holding within them the promise that true love, like time itself, endures forever. Dear listeners, that concludes our story of Michael and Sarah, a love that waited 47 years to come home. Sometimes the most beautiful love stories aren't about young romance, but about the enduring power of a love that refuses to give up even after decades of separation. We hope this story reminded you that it's never too late for love, never too late for family, and never too late for the kind of happiness that makes every previous heartache worthwhile. How did you find today's story? Please let us know in the comments where you are right now and what you're doing while listening to this. We're curious about your stories too. And if you enjoyed this story, please give us a like and subscribe to our channel.